Thank you so much, Manisha, for having me today. I really wanted to have relevant education for my children. I wanted them to be really cultured and have seen most of the world. It was something that was really important to me. And so we started on our journey to world school and see different parts of the planet. I think having the bells and sitting in rows and taking attendance and being tardy or truant and penalties in this way just isn't relevant for where we're moving. You know, a lot of my students are cycle breakers, and so they're having to move out of the industrial and into the future fields.
I saw a study a while back that said that homeschool kids were 1 to 2 years ahead of private school kids. Private school kids were a year or so ahead of public school kids. But unschooled kids, kids who had received no schooling whatsoever and spent their day however they wanted, were only about a year behind. This was at the college level. And once they were in college, the unschooled kids caught up very quickly within a year or two. So essentially, not schooling at all only sets you behind for a year until you care to catch up. And that indicates to me that it's learning that drives teaching, not teaching that drives learning.
Well, Naval, I think that you've definitely hit the nail on the head with that one. I think that students and children have to be in a space that's safe for them to learn and to explore. The space that we've created is really about unschooling a lot. A lot of my students come from industrial school and into a more open environment. I find that they actually need a lot more time in nature, and that is a consistent way to get them off the screens and reconnect with themselves in nature and each other in nature. I think that is a huge component that is missing in our society, definitely in our education system. There's plenty of time and space within the homeschooling spheres to do that.
I have a question for you, Naval. A lot of the families that come to Modulo are very successful, innovative tech entrepreneurs. Do you think there's a reason that people in tech are especially attracted to homeschooling?
Yeah, people in tech are much more likely to be self-made, and they're much more likely to understand that a lot of the skills that school teaches you today, or at least the industrial schools teach you, are obsolete. They're making you memorize things in a world and age of Google. They're making you memorize your times table in an age of calculators. They're making you learn skills like handwriting, which are functionally, unfortunately, obsolete, whatever you may think. And they're just wasting a lot of your time. And these are also people who know how much you can learn and how much you can create when you're highly motivated, like, for example, when you're building a company. So naturally, they're going to be attracted to homeschooling. They're also capital rich and poor on time. And frankly, a lot of them are living in the SF Bay Area where the schools are kind of a disaster. The public schools have been destroyed. And even the private schools, frankly, are full of drugs and over-socialization and teenage depression. So I do think they're all looking for alternatives. They're also comfortable with remote work, and homeschooling is sort of an analog of that. So I think they are ripe for homeschooling, but they do need guidance and help and tools of the highest quality and order. But I would say homeschooling is still very, very hard. It would be great to have, automatic lesson plans and curricula and materials, and frankly, something that can compete with games. The games out there are so good now. The cheap dopamine addictions are so good. How do you raise kids in an environment where they have the iPad and they have unlimited YouTube videos, TikTok, and, for teenagers, and Snapchat? And how do you compete against legal marijuana? How are you going to incent your kids to get off the couch in that kind of an environment? So I think, contraception, so you have a lot of teenage sex going on. How do you compete with that? How do you create an environment where there's any room for anything else other than pure indulgence?
Some parents might be concerned that if their children get to follow their interests, all they'll want to do is play video games. What would you say to those parents? How do you do unschooling in a world where there are these highly, highly addictive video games available?
Naval, this is a good question, but I hesitate to answer because it's not a question that is answered easily. I think it really starts with family values, starting with what kind of parent do you want to be. Personally, what's worked for me is a non-coercive parenting style. I think we need to be very cautious about coercing our children to do anything. Keeping them from running into oncoming traffic, that's a good time to be a coercive parent. Homeschooling is not the time to be a coercive parent. What we want to be is a persuasive parent. Coercion is getting people to do something they do not want to do. Persuasion is helping people do something they themselves want to do. Homeschooling is a privilege. It's a choice, and it's not for everyone. And if a child does not want to be homeschooled, they want to go to conventional school, that's their right, and they should absolutely go to conventional school.